This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. Episode 186 from the Subway to Shea studios in my office. We are only 14 away from episode 200. You can follow along with me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me personally at Ant Rivera 86 on X, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you prefer to listen. But if you want to be a part of this chat, and it's very lively every week, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube so you can be a part of all the live streaming. I don't know if you heard the new countdown music. They must have just updated the music for StreamYard, because that's a new tone for me. But guys, it's great to be back this week. Mets baseball officially underway. On Saturday, we got a nice little game at Clover Park in Port St. Lucie. Here to break it down with me, first time for him, Joe Vass of the Queens Bros podcast. Great to have him be a part of this. Joe, you and me have been talking on Instagram a lot over the past couple of weeks, so it's fine. It's great to finally get to see the face and to talk to you in person, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me, bro.
This is great. This is going to be a lot of fun today. We got already 29 people in the room. We'll continue to monitor the chat here. Shout out to everyone in the chat: Nelson Cruz, G Money Stacks, Rosie K, Deron Rivera, Stan from Westport's in the house, Jeff Cohen. We got a lot of people going on in part of the show. Hussein is on here as well. Carlos Ortiz. Great to have everyone be a part of this. Hit up the chat. We'll get to your comments. We'll get to your questions if you have any. But Joe, we got to start off, man, with what was a nice Grapefruit League opener for the New York Mets down in Port St. Lucie. You saw it in my little thumbnail there in the little picture to start the show. Juan Soto, Clay Holmes, dazzling in their debut. First at bat for Juan Soto, a solo shot. I mean, if you could not get any more excited, he made it even better to start off the spring there. Clay Holmes, 3 perfect innings, 3 strikeouts. I know it's not the A lineup for the Astros, but this is a guy that's transitioning from being first a closer, losing that job, to being a reliever, to now trying to be a starter, which I think in the minor leagues he's had 114 starts, and maybe in the major leagues probably about 3 or 4 starts. So this is a big transition for Clay Holmes. Nice to see the pitches and what he was working with, and, shut down a lineup, because these guys, he's going to be facing a lot of talent when it comes to the major league. So for him to get himself started here was great to see. What were your takeaways from the first Grapefruit League game?
Yeah, look, man, I am so happy baseball's back, first of all. Mets baseball cannot be more ecstatic. Look, bro, from the first inning, Clay Holmes coming on the mound. I think this guy is going to be extremely, extremely underrated for us. A lot of people are talking about, he was whatever coming out of the bullpen. Look, you're going to see a Clay Holmes, I think, that you've never seen before. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Met fan. I said this from the first time that we got him, and I think he's going to be extremely underrated for us coming from being a starter, because now he's where he wants to be. He's always wanted to be a starter. He didn't really want to be in the pen. And let's be real, man. Coming out of the pen, Clay Holmes is not he's not a fireballer. You know what I mean? These days, guys coming out of the pens, most of them are throwing 99, 100, 101. He's not really that, and he has a new changeup, I know now, to go with his repertoire. And I think he's going to be extremely underrated. And like you said yesterday, it's not the A lineup that's going out there for the Astros. But what I look at the stuff, and I can tell that Clay Holmes is going to be a reliable piece going down the line for us. And we'll see what happens. But, I know all Met fans had to be excited when they saw Juan Soto come up to the plate, swinging out of his shoes on 2-0. I think he was trying to hit a bomb in that at bat in general. He was trying to give Met fans something to show them, this is what we're paying him for, even though, again, it's spring training. But still, what Juan Soto is going to bring to the table. And, taking that pitch opposite field over the wall, left center, and it's a good time to be a Met fan, man. I'm so ecstatic.
Absolutely. First off, with Clay Holmes, and what you're looking for, what these players are doing is if they can live up to their report there, right? He's a guy that throws a lot of ground balls. He's going to rely on his defense to do a lot of the work, and that's where the struggles came last year with the New York Yankees. Yes, he was not your typical closer, a guy that throws a lot of strikeouts, but he's a guy that gets the ball in play, and he needs a defense behind him that's going to be able to get the outs when they're needed, throw double plays, and do all of that stuff, which the Mets have a pretty good, I think they have a pretty good infield, if you ask me personally, whether Jeff McNeil's a part of it or Luis Angel Acuna is a part of it. We know what Lindor is. Mark Vientos has shown that he could be a capable third baseman, and then you have Pete Alonso at first base. So, you look at what Stan from Westport's saying, Clay Holmes, the velo, the movement, the assortment, he looked pretty masterful, even with, like we said, the lineup that was thrown out there, which was, obviously not the Astros' best there, and topping out at 97 miles per hour. So Jeff Cohen saying same as Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo went through the whole thing. He always wanted to start for the Mets. They wanted him to be a reliever. At some point, he was even a closer for the Mets because they didn't have a really good closer at the time. And even Edwin Diaz was struggling when he first came here. So they had Lugo close for a while there, but same thing as him, same thing as Michael King. These guys become relievers, and then they want to be, starting pitchers. Hopefully the Mets pitching lab can do what's best for him. And we'll get into the rotation just a little bit. From last week's show, the Mets, I don't want to say they suffered a big injury, but, considering where this rotation is at right now, considering how they're going to have to handle guys like Clay Holmes, Kodai Senga, it's pretty important that every single piece of this Mets rotation is healthy, and it's not. So we'll talk a little bit more about Clay Holmes and the rest of the rotation later. But when you talk about Juan Soto and what he did, even Matt A.B. Ibanez from Till Mets Do His Part, who's in the chat, I began laughing like a madman when the homer happened. I mean, I screamed, I yelled.
That was me.
Yeah,
that was I think that was every Met fan. I know it's spring training. The home run's not going to mean nothing. We know that, but it's the fact that we have Juan Soto here. We have not seen Juan Soto in a Met jersey yet. Guy comes onto the field, strutting his stuff, skipping into the outfield like he owns the place. Has never played an inning as a Met. Comes up to the plate. I mean, yeah, it's spring training, but still, you're coming to you went from the Yankees to the Mets, bro. It took all this money, and he looks like stress is not an option. Again, it's spring training, but still, all eyes are on you. He knows that, and he's whatever, bro. He's whatever about it. He just comes up to the plate, no stress at all, goes opposite field, hits a home run, and he had all Met fans having the same reaction, smiling from ear to ear, and that was all of us, man.
And as Rosie K says, Soto's a superstar. Showed yesterday. I think in his debut with the Yankees, I could have thought he hit a home run as well.
He did. His first at bat.
Yeah. So, to have him do that here, the crowd, over 7,394 were in attendance for the second largest since the return of Matt Harvey in 2015. That had, I think, 7,444. It would have been electric just to be out there. Just watching it on TV was electric. And to see what he's going to bring to this lineup. You look at this Mets lineup right now on paper compared to the Yankees lineup last season on paper, and I think the Mets lineup is better. And what he did for that Yankees lineup last season was night and day, right? The year before, 2023, the Yankees, I think they finished at 500 or 2 games over 500, didn't make the postseason. And just bringing in Juan Soto changed the whole entire dynamic of the lineup and made them, a comparable lineup, took them all the way to the World Series. And that's what we're hoping that's going to happen here with the New York Mets.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that you have people saying, oh, Juan Soto is not going to do what he did last year because he had Aaron Judge batting in front of him. That's the most ridiculous comment I've ever heard in my life, and I'm hearing it from everywhere. And I actually heard it from some Met fans too. That's ridiculous. That must be the most, pessimistic Met fans in the world saying that, because this man has hit every year of his career. his down year, 2022, was a good year. You know what I mean? Like for most people, 2022 was still a good year. And that was his by far biggest down year. Look at 2021, what he did when the Nationals got rid of Trey Turner, Anthony Rendon, and this dude still dominated in 2021. To say that he's not going to have the year he had because he doesn't have Aaron Judge in front of him is so crazy to say, especially that the Mets lineup this year is definitely deeper than the Yankees lineup last year. All they had really, and who said it? Who said it last year? I forgot who it was. This, who said Severino. Severino said something with the group chat. He was talking with the group chat and he was like, you guys only have 2 hitters. That is the most accurate comment ever. They really only had 2 hitters, and then Stanton obviously woke up in the playoffs. But our lineup is so much deeper. And I think Lindor is going to benefit the most from it because Lindor is batting before him. And Lindor already had an MVP season last year. And I think he's definitely going to benefit so much having Juan Soto batting after him.
We've talked so much on this podcast about how this lineup is going to measure out. And I think already Mendy has said that it's going to be Lindor number 1, Soto number 2, and then whether it's Vientos 3 or Alonso 3 or even Nimmo 3, the Mets top 5, I think, are a very serious. And when you think of 6, 7, 8, 9, I mean, Francisco Alvarez down there in the lineup. You got Pop and Jose Siri, Jeff McNeil trying to come back and have a better season. Looks like he's trying to hit for more power. You could see him in the first game as well, trying to hit a little more pop than we normally see from him. Shout out again to the people in the chat, everyone here. G Money Stacks. Make sure you, like you said, make sure you hit that like and comment in the chat. Subscribe to not only Subway to Shea, but the Queens Bros podcast as well. Odd Villain, how you doing this morning? Nelson Cruz also in the chat here. And look, we talk so much about Juan Soto and just him showing up on Monday and the whole Juan Soto experience that has taken place. The media was out in full force, kind of something that we're really not used to, right? They're always out in Tampa. They're always out for Yankee spring training. And for the first time, it felt like everyone had come all the way to Port St. Lucie for the first day of Mets camp. His energy is infectious, and you can tell with his teammates how they are. He bought Brett Baty a brand new car for giving him his number 22 without any issue. A black Chevy Tahoe. This guy, Brett Baty, was driving a Toyota 4Runner. I mean, I had one. I had one when I was young. That thing lasted me about 10 years here, but he had since high school. And it was a nice thank you gift from Juan Soto. And you could just feel not only his aura, but just like the whole team around him just feels different.
Yeah, man. That whole buying Brett Baty a car thing, it showed how he's so welcoming. He made all this cash and he's still trying to give back to the players who are not there yet. Obviously, Baty, we know that he struggled last year, and then it looked like Vientos is kind of moving in, taking his spot, and Juan Soto still coming here, welcoming him in. He gave him the number 22, giving him that car. That's a big thing for somebody like Brett Baty, who doesn't have the kind of money that a lot of major leaguers have already. And, like you said, he was driving that car for God knows how long. And now he's here, and Juan Soto is giving him supposedly what he said was his dream car. And it's just such a nice gesture coming here and doing that.
Absolutely. Brett Baty will now wear number 7 in vein of, Ed Kranepool, Jose Reyes, also the top Mets to wear a number 7 here. And hopefully we're going to get a little bit into Brett Baty and what he's going to bring to the table this season. But, to close up with Juan Soto here, it really feels like that kind of pinch me moment, like that pinch me because I'm dreaming type moment. But like, Joe, this is real, man. This is real. And it feels great seeing him in the orange and blue and in a Mets uniform just in general.
It's funny you say it's real. I still had a hard time believing Juan Soto was a Met until yesterday when he hit that home run. It just didn't feel real. I'm like, I know we have him, but like, I need to see him play. Like, it just doesn't feel realistic, and him coming on the field yesterday, and when he hit that home run, it was like a kid on Christmas where my face just went in a direction of like the Joker status, where it was like uncontrollable, just smiling. I had my nephew, my like 8-month-old nephew on my lap, because obviously that kid's going to be a diehard Met fan one day. Had him on my lap, and I was just like bouncing him on my knee when Soto hit the home run. And it's such a good feeling, man, that this guy's going to be a Met for 15 years. And, we got to thank Steve Cohen for that.
I'm glad you brought up the kid, Stan from Westport, saying, how did little Ant like his first Mets game? Look, I had the jersey. Have you seen the post on Instagram of me and little Subway to Shea, as I like to call him? But yeah, he enjoyed as much as he could. There was a little bit of crying, which goes along with being a Mets fan sometimes, right? Where we get upset.
Or he might have been crying happy tears because Juan Soto's a Met. You don't know.
It's most likely happy tears because of Juan Soto. That's crazy. His first game, his first at bat, a Mets win. Juan Soto gets his first home run. It's a new era in Mets baseball, and it's very exciting to see with this Mets team. I want to get into Brett Baty with you because his versatility is going to come into play here, right? They're talking about him playing third base, left field, as well as second base, and he's learning a little bit of shortstop. Now he's not going to replace Francisco Lindor. Don't worry about that. But it's good for him to have this versatility, not only for the Mets, because if the Mets decide, maybe they do want to trade a guy like Jeff McNeil and have someone else, in place. He could be one of those guys. If he has the versatility to play all sorts of positions, it helps out the New York Mets here. The more versatile, the better. He could be the one that gets traded. He's younger. He probably has a little bit more upside from, being one of the top prospects. I know it's taken a little bit of a back seat since he hasn't had the success here with the New York Mets, but to have this guy be a versatile part of this team. And I'm going to throw up the lineup here because you look at the final spots that are available, and it's not much, right? I mean, there's not much when it comes to position players with the New York Mets and how much space that they have left here. And you can't see Brett Baty's name because it's covered here with the little tagline there. But you look at the final spot: Nick Madrigal, Jared Young, Luis Angel Acuna, Ronnie Mauricio, who I think is not going to make it with the camp to start the season. I think that he will be having a little bit more time to rehab from that surgery that he had last season. And then you have Brett Baty as well. And, Brett Baty has a big opportunity here if he can play well in spring training. We know that he can play well in the minors. We've seen him play well in spring training. This is a big spring for him because Luis Angel Acuna, if he has a big spring, he already can play shortstop, right? And we've seen him play second base, and we've seen him filling in for a pinch and do well for the New York Mets, especially during crunch time, during the playoffs. So, look, I think it's up to Madrigal, Acuna, and Brett Baty. So it's up to Brett Baty to be as versatile as possible when it comes to this Mets lineup.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Brett Baty yet. I'm going to be honest. I need to see more of him because obviously we haven't seen much from him yet. And I feel like he just puts too many balls on the ground. He has to start leveling his swings. That everything just goes on the ground with this man. And, I love the kid. I think he's a great kid. And he looks like he's a go hard, like he wants to get better. You see him on all these videos out. He's one of the first people out in spring training, and he's really working hard. And I'm hoping that contributes and that follows the work that he's putting in, because I really want this kid to succeed. But I need to see him do it on the field because I see too many ground balls from him constantly, and he needs to improve on that. Obviously, we saw Vientos kind of, I guess, I don't want to say took his job, but kind of took the third base position away from him last year. And I definitely want to see more of Acuna. I think Acuna is going to be that sneak, the guy that sneaks in there, because like you said, he came up in a very difficult spot. We brought him up in a very difficult position where the Mets were in a pennant race, and he did what he did. He put in work, and he did great for us, in my opinion. And Acuna also gives us something that the Mets don't have much of, and that's speed, and speed kills in this game. And he gives us that. So I know you have on the lineup, we have Jeff McNeil in there. Like again, Acuna hasn't really done much yet to earn that spot yet. But if I had the choice, I would put Acuna to start because I think he has much more upside than Jeff McNeil has at this point. Now, Jeff looked much better in the second half last year. I'll give him that 100%. But I just think that for what the type of players that both of them are not major power hitters. And I think that Acuna would provide much more upside for us, as well as, giving the kid a shot. Because one thing I don't like is having the young kids on our team and not play. Like if Jeff McNeil has the spot and Jeff McNeil is playing second base and Acuna is on the bench, don't have Acuna here. Keep him in the minors. Get him reps. He needs to play. Baseball is a game of reps. If you're not playing, that's why Francisco Lindor starts off slow every single year, because he hasn't played in months. I know you got a month of spring training, but still, baseball is reps. The more reps you get, the better you're going to become. You can't just stop playing baseball, be on the bench, and then come in. And that's why, in my opinion, a pinch hitter is an extremely hard job, because you're not playing, you're cold, and then you go in there and you're facing 100-mile-per-hour fastballs. It's not going to happen. So if he is not playing, if Acuna is not playing, or any of these guys, Brett Baty is not playing, they need to be in the minor leagues because they need to get the reps. I don't want to see Acuna just coming in one game, one at bat a game, and getting at bat, and that's it.
Yeah, and he had a huge opportunity last season because of the injury to Francisco Lindor. I know it was about a week or two, and you started to see as we got closer to the end of the season that the bat, kind of slowed down a little bit. But Stan from Westport agrees with you on Acuna's speed and how important that is as well to this team. Now, I had a comment here from Carlos Ortiz asking, is Candelita coming back? Jose Iglesias? I don't think so. We've talked about it for multiple weeks. I would love to see him come back. I think he's a huge part of the vibes of this team. But I feel like, when you add a guy like Juan Soto, a superstar player who comes with his own vibes, I think those vibes have been kind of replaced. And to leave, it sucks because he played so well for the team last year, one of the most important hitters and defensive players in this lineup. And when you look at the other options that we talked about, it would be great to have Jose Iglesias come back. But this is sort of the problem that the Mets have dealt with in the past, where they take 1 year of a really good player and he's 35 years old. Let's not forget that he's 35 years old, coming off of a great season, and they'll give him a multi-year deal. And then from there, it goes downhill. So to see David Stearns, flip the switch and go in a different direction, he truly, I assume, believes in whether it's, Luis Angel Acuna or it's Brett Baty. He believes in those guys. Obviously, they brought in Nick Madrigal, but I would assume that even if Nick Madrigal has a bad season, that they will get rid of him just like they did Joey Wendell and Zach Short. Definitely.
I think we also brought Nick Madrigal in because he's a little bit more versatile. Feel like that had a lot to do with it. Look, man, if you're a Met fan, there's no way you don't have Jose Iglesias in your heart. There's no way you don't have him close to home, close to your heart, because what he provided to us last year was spectacular. The whole oh my God thing, the whole vibe, the vibe in the clubhouse, brought the team together. Just felt like when he got here, that's when the Mets started winning. I was at the game where he actually performed oh my God after the game. Absolutely amazing experience. And he just brought such a vibe to this team that can't be unmatched. And yes, I wanted him back. How do you not want that back on your team? But you make a really excellent point. It does feel like a guy that will re-sign and then it just completely goes downhill and the deal made no sense. And we just signed him for, the songs, which is cool. But, Stearns is not looking at that. Stearns is looking at winning. He's looking at putting together the best product to win. And how do you not believe in David Stearns yet? Like as a Met fan, you have to believe in this guy. Everything he does, I I'm like, all right, David Stearns knows what he's doing. This guy knows his deal. He knows what he's doing. And I trust him.
Yeah, I when you get to within 2 games of the World Series with that rotation, with that bullpen, and the way that it was a different pace than what we've seen in the past, right? Like if Adrian Hauser, was awful in previous regimes, he might still be on the team. But David Stearns and to his credit as well, Steve Cohen want to do whatever it takes to win. So they're going to get rid of some of these guys. And we saw the lineup and the rotation, and we saw everything change throughout the year to help them get to within 2 games of the World Series. So I'm going to give David Stearns the benefit of the doubt, especially this season. I want to see what he does at the trade deadline. I want to see what he does. And it's going to be a little bit different vibes, especially now that the Mets have made it so close to the World Series. Now it's another test that they are going to have to get back to, at the very least, the National League Championship Series. And Steve Cohen talked about in his press conference wanting to get to the postseason again and not accepting anything less from that. So the Mets have a big year ahead of them, and I really do hope that they are able to get us back to the World Series next year, even with that tough Dodgers team ahead of the crowd there. This topic that I want to get into, because we're talking about Brett Baty, and kind of leads into the Mets babies, the baby Mets, whatever, the kids. They're not kids anymore, but when you look at a guy like Francisco Alvarez and Mark Vientos, and this article came out from Anthony DiComo, I think yesterday, of MLB.com, talking about pre-arbitration extensions. We've seen it. You've seen the Atlanta Braves do it so many times with their players, whether it was Ronald Acuna or Ozzie Albies, even Austin Riley. A lot of their players have gotten extensions in the season to get rid of their arbitration years. And, it helps out with the team. No deals are imminent. Let's just leave it at that. But it's just good food for thought and to talk about. Alvarez has 4 years left on his contract. Vientos has 5. It is early to be giving this out, in my opinion. I still need to see them play at a consistent basis. This will be technically Mark Vientos' second, season. He hasn't even had a full season yet.
Yep.
But to see if he can do what he did last season, and I think he can, given the fact that the slumps that he had last season were never long. He always was able to come out of it. The way that he played in the postseason, one of the best postseason performances from a position player in Mets history. You could talk about Daniel Murphy. The list goes on and on. But Mark Vientos had a pretty good postseason, if you ask me. And then Francisco Alvarez coming back from his thumb injury to see if he can get that power stroke back. And, we just need consistencies from these guys. I feel like Vientos is a little closer in that department, but for right now, big year coming for both Vientos and Alvy, and this year where they can be X factors in the lineup, Joe.
Yeah, you hit it on the nail. And I've said that on my podcast several times about Vientos and Alvarez. I think Alvarez has a more important year than Vientos. Reason why I say that is Alvarez has been incredibly inconsistent for us. He'll go on stretches where he'll have over a 900 OPS, and then go on stretches where he has an OPS as a pitcher, bro, like 500, 600s. And I feel like if Alvarez does not have a great season and kind of like what he had last year, all us Met fans are going to be like, all right, well, this is who he is. This is him. He's not that 900 guy. That was just a hot stretch. This is who Francisco Alvarez is. So it's a very important season for that man to get off to a hot start and just have a good year where he's consistent throughout the year. Now, yes, you're going to go into slumps. Everybody goes into slumps. It's baseball. That's what happens. But as long as you're hitting the ball hard. Look, if Alvarez has like a 220 average, right, to start the season, but he's scorching the ball. He's hitting the ball he's completely annihilating the ball, but it's baseball, okay? He might be hitting the ball at people. I'm fine with that. I want to see progress. That's what I want to see. Now, Vientos, a very important year for him too, because we all know about the sophomore slump. We always hear about the sophomore slump, right? But Vientos, bro, what he showed us last year, Absolutely incredible. From the moment we officially called him up where he was here to stay, he took that job by storm. And how could you say anything bad about Vientos? He looked like one of those young studs that people have been talking about for years, that he's about to be called up and produced. And what he did in the playoffs was what really opened my eyes more than anything, because he showed that he can hit when it counts. He wasn't afraid of the pressure. Usually these young kids, they'll bow down to the pressure. Vientos was not that. He took it by storm. I think he led. I think he had the most RBIs in Mets postseason history, if I'm not mistaken. And what really was amazing was when they walked Lindor to get to him, and he said he took that personal, and he hit the grand slam against the Dodgers. That was incredible, because again, you're walking Francisco Lindor to get to this young kid. That's a lot of stress, man. And to do what he did against the Dodgers in that kind of stage, it doesn't go unnoticed.
No, absolutely not. And Yamid Medina making a good comment here. Of the 4 baby Mets, Vientos was the most consistent in the minor leagues. And it's true, right? All we heard about, obviously, Francisco Alvarez was the #1 prospect in all of Major League Baseball for a short time, being in 2022, 2021. He had a slow coming up there. Yeah, Brett Baty had to be rushed up due to injury. And, we always saw and heard about Mark Vientos and the power, but can he play a position? Is he just a DH? Will he be able to, play first or third, or even in the outfield, can he play? And then, once the Mets went to him at third base, and, obviously he's not Gold Glove, but the fact that he could play third base not just helped the cause for the Mets, and obviously the power. Not only the power, but him getting so many clutch hits, so many clutch home runs when the Mets needed. Vientos has probably been, so far, even that short spurt, has been the best out of the prospects. And there's still a lot more to be seen from them. Carlos Ortiz saying that Alvy's going to rake this year. Jeff Cohen saying he'd like to see Alvarez improve on his defense. Too many pass balls due to, obviously his knees and the way he frames the pitch. You see when he tries to frame and steal some of the strikes, he did a great job doing that. But the con on that is that he's letting a lot of pass balls get through him. So we'll see what he does on defense. Are you more concerned when it comes to Francisco Alvarez about the offense or the defense?
I'm concerned about the offense, man. That's my #1 concern with Alvarez. His offense has been brutal for us so far. His defense, I agree. I totally agree with the comment, to be honest. He's allowing too many pass balls. But his defense has actually been impressive compared to what we heard when he was coming up here. You know what I mean? Now, yes, it could use improvements. He's not a Yadier Molina back there. It could always use improvements. But his offense was supposed to be his strength. And his offense is extremely brutal right now. We're getting nothing out of his offense. Now, it could be the thumb. He had the thumb injury. Could be that. I don't know. But we'll see this year. And if he's not hitting this year, it's going to really worry me going into the future, because I know you were talking about signing an extension for him. That will worry me. If he does not hit this year, I am going to be believing that, maybe this is just who he is. Now, we already seen this guy has a ridiculous amount of power. He has power to hit that ball out of any ballpark, hit it out of the ballpark, ridiculous amount of power, but he needs to shorten that stroke a little bit. Dude, every ball does not have to be hit to the moon. Like, this guy will be in 0-2 counts in the playoffs, and he's swinging like he's trying to drive the ball to, another country. You got to relax. Calm down. Every ball doesn't need to be a home run. Sometimes just put the ball in play. Shorten the stroke a bit. Yes, home runs are great, but he's trying to hit home run on every single pitch, and that, in my opinion, is where the issue lies. Is that he's just swinging out of his shoes too much.
And I think that's why he worked with JD Martinez this offseason. Yeah. And hopefully he's able to shorten the swing. Kind of seen a little bit of it during batting practice, the little snippets and clips that we get from that. But once you get to play the games, it's a whole different story. Rosie K saying Vientos and Alvy are the keys to the lineup from being good.
I agree.
To being great.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think those two, you talk about the top of the lineup. You don't got to worry about Lindor and Soto and Nimmo. I assume will bounce back from the injury that he had last season. He still had 90 RBIs. I mean, crazy for him to have that 90 RBIs, but it still kind of was one of his worst statistical seasons of his career. We know what Pete Alonso can provide to the team. And then obviously you have Marte and Winker, McNeil, Siri can provide a little bit of pop, but these two kids right here are the future of this lineup. And they're going to be huge moving forward. And it probably will decide how the Mets move forward when it comes to the team in the next couple of years, because they do have a lot of prospects coming up. So I assume Vientos and Alvy, if they do have a really good season, it will make this lineup just that much better. Green Machine 82 saying Vientos goes to the opposite field. So naturally, I think that approach will keep him out of a lot of prolonged slumps. I agree with that.
I agree.
He did so well when it came to some of these slumps that he had, that they were just so short when it comes to him at the plate. And like we talked about it, I mean, the postseason was just huge for him. That was a huge confidence booster. And I think coming into this season, he has so much confidence, so much bravado. We've heard him during the press conferences, during spring training so far already. And he's just one of those guys you can just go to and talk to. And he has just so much, aura about him as well. you see him go out there on the field. So I think Vientos is ready to be a huge part of this team and this franchise moving forward.
Yeah. I'm not worried about Vientos at all. I absolutely love what I see from that kid. Now I know it's easy to say that because you saw the numbers, you saw the statistics, but it's about his approach at the plate. That's what I look at. I look at the way these guys approach things. And I was at a game where Vientos actually spoke with me a bit. And I was at a game and I told him, yo, Mark, like you're about to be coming up with the bases loaded or something like that. I was saying, you're about to be coming up with the bases loaded. He goes, don't worry, I got this. That's what he told me. He doesn't even know me from a hole in a wall. He's like, don't worry, I got this. Dude hit a grand slam. I think, what was that? I think that was against the Pirates. He hit a grand slam. I felt like that home run was for me. That's what I felt like. This guy goes, don't worry, I got this. Dude hit a grand slam. I was like, he just has this aura about him that is absolutely incredible, and it's the way he approaches his at-bats. And I'll tell you this, too. I don't think Vientos is just going to be a home run hitter. I think he's going to be an average hitter as well. He approaches every at-bat, like it's his last. And like, I forgot who said that comment about Vientos going opposite field. That is 100% accurate. The way he goes oppo is incredible, and the best kind of hitters can go to all fields. Look at Soto. The way he goes to opposite field, the best kind of hitters go that way. David Wright was another one who always went to the opposite field. And Vientos reminds me, and this is probably why I love him so much. He reminds me so much of David Wright, bro. So much of David Wright. And that's probably why I have a thing with him. And I think he's going to really, really succeed for us. And going back to that comment previously, another one, you guys are on the money with these comments that those two hitters are going to be especially Alvarez. I really believe Vientos is going to do what he did last year and maybe even a little bit better. If Alvarez hits this year, oh man, the Mets lineup is going to be so dangerous. We're going to be so dangerous.
No, absolutely. Lane Kerner, huge fan, says, I like Mark Vientos. Duran Rivera, going back to Alvarez, saying he needs to focus on staying within himself and wait for his pitch and cut down on pass balls and throwing out runners. Alvarez did talk about during the first week of spring of just being a little bit more patient at the plate, and that'll go a long way from him. Stan from Westport saying Alvy can manage all the pitchers, especially for a young guy. I agree he has to stop the pass balls and improve his decisions on some throws. Lucky bounce off third base saved him from Paul from going in left field last season. Yeah. As we move on for this team, and we're going to switch and go to the pitching, because early on Monday, and this always happens after I do my show on Sunday, that a big breaking news happens the next day.
On Monday, that happens to me too. It feels like every time I do a show, a breaking news happens. Like the day after. I agree.
Yeah, and it's not like not every time I could just jump on it and do a breaking news show. So I was saving Frankie Montas and his injury for this podcast. You guys already know the deal. You know the drill. High grade right lat strain. He's going to be out it said he was going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, but Montas is saying only 4 to 6. We'll definitely need a full spring training before he returns. So that's going to be about another 6 weeks. So you're looking at late May, possibly early June for his return. He experienced the pain after his first bullpen session. I saw a lot of people ask me on X, like, how did this happen? Like, he just signed the contract. They didn't know that he got hurt. And I'm like, it could have just happened during the bullpen session. I mean, he was throwing out there on Sunday, so it could have just happened there. Those, those things just happen. Like those kind of injuries. It's baseball. It just takes place. He experienced the pain during that, and he's got one of those PRP injections in his shoulder. Look, the Mets gave him 2 years, $34 million. He's pitched more than 150 innings for both Cincinnati and Milwaukee last season. He was 7-11, 4.84 ERA, and 148 strikeouts. Now, before we get into replacing him, what were your thoughts on just the signing of Montas? Because I don't know if I was too sure on this. I know that we always talk about the pitching lab and what they can do with these type of pitchers, but man, I really did want one more sure thing in the rotation. You already got Clay Holmes, who's going to be learning to starting pitch. You got Kodai Senga, who we just don't know. Like, is he going to be a fully healthy? Sean Manaea, it's kind of like for him, can he find that consistency along with David Peterson as well? So the Mets are going back to what they did last season, and they're hoping lightning strikes twice. So what did you think of bringing in Montas? Were you a fan of that deal?
I feel like it created a little more depth for us, even though we don't really have depth in general. I was whatever about it. I gotta be honest, but if I'm gonna be real with you, I was the same way when we signed Sean. The way I felt about Montas is the same way I felt when we signed Sean Manaea last year. I was whatever about that too. I didn't know Sean Manaea was gonna come in here and pitch like a Cy Young, So I've already learned my lesson that I can't question David Stearns when it comes to the pitching. If he gets a pitcher, I'm like, all right, cool. David Stearns knows what he's doing. That's the kind of mentality I have now towards him because I already learned my lesson. Last year, I trashed our pitching. I got to be honest. I was terrified about our pitching. I'm like, how are we going to go to the playoffs with pitching like this? And then when Senga went down, I'm like, oh my God, Senga went down. That's our best pitcher. What are we going to do? And you already saw what we did. Severino pitched great. Severino didn't pitch great, but he pitched decent. Manaea pitched great. And everybody picked up the slack, and they did what they did. They brought us to the NLCS, and the rest was history. This year, I can't question our pitching, even though, yes, in my mind is telling me we have a lot of questions. We don't know what Senga's going to give us. Montas is injured, Even Clay Holmes, even though I think he's going to be a very underrated piece for us, we don't know what he's going to give us as a starter. And I know there's been many starters, relievers, switch to starters that have been successful. Michael King, Seth Lugo, but we still don't know what he's going to give us. So yes, the pitching, in my mind, there's a lot of question marks and not enough depth. And I feel like Montas was just to give us a little more depth, give us a starter who has been successful in the majors. But I totally agree. I wish we have one more reliable piece, like a Dylan Cease. Like one more reliable guy where we're like, all right, we have this kind of stopper. We don't have any guys right now, in my opinion. And even, I got to be honest, even Sean Manaea, because Sean Manaea pitched great last year. I don't know if he's going to do it again, because he's not a guy that has pitched great for his entire career, like a Garrett Cole, that kind of ace. Right now, we're looking to him as our ace because of what he did last year. I'm hoping he does it again. Because how baseball could work. You have a great season, and that was your one-hit wonder, and then you fall off the edge of a cliff. So pitching worries me a little bit, but I've already learned my lesson. Stearns, I trust, bro. Stearns, I trust.
Well, yeah, we're hoping that Sean Manaea can replicate what he did, and he changed up his arm angle to be more like Chris Sale. He's been working with he's been working with Johan Santana, who's his favorite player growing up. They're showing him, how to throw the circle change and stuff. We'll see if he'll add that to his repertoire as well. But, you look at, who should the Mets replace Frankie Montas with in the rotation. And it seems like that they are just going to stay in-house with this whole situation. The plan is still to have the 6-man rotation, but they don't need it right off the bat with all the days they have off to start the season. But once, we get deep into May and June, they're going to add that 6th man. And with it being in-house, you look at the rotation as is right now. Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga, David Peterson. Obviously, you can cross Frankie Montas out of that, throw Clay Holmes up there. And then you look at the, I guess what is now the final 2 spots. And if it's in-house, you have Paul Blackburn, who, if they are not looking to making a signing right now, it must mean that Paul Blackburn is 100%. Like, you don't go into this with this guy who had, the spinal fluid and the surgery on his spine. If he's not 100%, you're not going in there being like, yeah, we're just going to stick with what we got. You got Griffin Canning as well. I put Brandon Sproat on here. He'll have to have a elite spring to make this rotation. The other guy who's not on here is Tyler McGill. And I think, when I look at this rotation, to me, I think that it's going to be either a Blackburn or a Canning. The other one's going to go to the bullpen, and Tyler McGill is going to be the one that always somehow ends up in this rotation for this Met team. Now, I am not the biggest Tyler McGill fan, but considering the fact that they said that they're going to keep him as a starter, and what we've seen from him out of the bullpen has not been great, you know what? Just give it to Tyler McGill if he's the 6th starter. Like, he's 5'6", okay, and we'll see what happens. He had a great September, if you remember last year, once he, got back into the rotation, had a 2.45 ERA in 5 starts, really helped the Mets down the stretch. So you look at those guys in-house, but there are some guys, if you're thinking about, you mentioned Dylan Cease already through trade. There's also Michael King, which I don't think we'll see any of those guys until maybe the trade deadline get moved, because I'm pretty sure San Diego is going to want to see where the team's at before they trade them. Free agents that are available: Jose Quintana, who had a great September and October; Kyle Gibson, who had a 4.0 WAR and was the best out of the remaining free agents; Patrick Corbin, Lance Lynn, Anthony DeScafani, Zach Davies, Spencer Turnbull, Alex Wood. When you hear all these names outside of Jose Quintana, because I've seen a lot of comments here in the chat, Lane Kerner asking if the Mets should resign Jose Quintana, Green Machine saying go out and get Jose Quintana. He was a bulldog down the stretch for us, not overpowering, but knows how to pitch. You can never have too much pitching depth. I think if the Mets were to go the free agent route, if there's another injury or something, it would be Jose Quintana, because of the rest of the names here don't really do much for me. And I think, and I hate to say this, I'd rather probably stay with Tyler McGill at that point.
Yeah, one thing I already learned about Davis Stearns is that he's not, we're never really going to get like what the Yankees did with Max Fried. We're never really going to get that kind of contract, because Davis Stearns is not the type to be throwing long years at pitchers because of the injury that comes with pitchers over time, especially these pitchers these days when they throw so hard. So many injuries are happening. He's not the type to be giving long deals. So I don't think we're ever going to get a free agent in that kind of caliber anyway. So these are honestly the type of guys that the Mets are mostly going to be looking at when it comes to pitchers, because those big type pitchers look for those kind of deals, and yes, like you said, Quintana's the only one out of that list. And he already obviously pitched for us, is that we would look at, because none of the other names even catch my eye at all. But like you guys said, you can never have enough pitching depth, because you never know when injuries are going to happen, especially to pitchers, because they happen so often these days. I don't know why pitchers are getting injured left and right these days, but you can never have enough pitching depth. And I'm all for going the free agent route, getting another pitcher, because let's be real, we don't know what our pitching is going to provide to us this year. Even though there's a guy in that pitching rotation that cannot be overlooked, because he had probably the most I don't even know how to put it, like overlooked season ever, is David Peterson. Dude, yeah. David Peterson had such a good season last year, and no one talks about it. He had a great year last year, and nobody speaks about it. They just see him as like a whatever guy in the rotation. He had a good year last year, and nobody really mentions that,
Yeah, Duran Rivera, huge fan, said he was key to last season, and he was. 10 wins, had a little bit over a 2 ERA there, and really, really held down when this rotation desperately needed. And not just that. It came out of the bullpen in huge spots in the postseason when needed against the Phillies as well as against the Milwaukee Brewers to help the Mets here. Look, the fact that, they have a couple of weeks to start where there are some days off, I think helps right now. And I just don't think at this moment in time, people may hate me saying this, but I don't think they need to jump the gun in a trade because it'll come off as desperation and they will get fleeced. And I don't want that happening to this Mets team for, a guy like Cease or even a guy like King at just this moment in time. So for me, the rotation right now to start will be Senga, Minaya, Peterson, Canning, McGill. And, I say that because Blackburn, I think, probably should start the first month in the bullpen, get his back, acclimated again. And like I said with McGill, the fact that he's not really pitched well out of the bullpen, just let him be the 5th or 6th starter and go with it. Jose Budo is going to be in the bullpen as well, so that's a big positive. They finally defined a role for him. Do you agree with the way this rotation, how I laid that out? Do you have it set differently?
Yeah, no, that's the way I have it. That's exactly the way I have it, to be honest. There's not much more you could do at this point. That's what you have to ride with. That's what we got. And like I said, I do wish we have another pitcher that will end up coming, whether it's a Jose Quintana, just to give us a little bit more depth. But that's exactly the way I have it written up right now. And I think that's what we're going to go with.
Going back to the chat here, we have 135 people in the stream right now. Shout out to all you guys here. Jeff Cohen, not too many great pitchers available. Pitchers today are good, but not outstanding. Just get to 5 to 6 innings and hope that the bullpen can come through. Green Machine saying if the rotation needs a mid-summer boost, hopefully Brandon Sproat is ready to take that next step, but don't rush him. I agree with this. I feel like they're going to bring him up the same way that they tried doing with Christian Scott last season. So if we see Brandon Sproat, it will probably be sometime in the middle part of the season. Rosie K saying, I think that the Mets are staying in-house because they'll have to pay 110%. They're going to have to pay double because of the Cohen tax that's out there.
Yeah, I don't think Steve Cohen cares about the Cohen tax at all. I really don't. He's not this type of guy. Like, Steve Cohen could care less. He don't care about that Cohen tax at all. He will go out and get anybody he wants, man. And I've learned that already. We saw that with what he did with Juan Soto. This guy don't care about that at all. If he wants the guy, he's going to go get him. Now, he's going to be smart. I've also learned that. He's not going to just go out and get whoever just because, whatever, we got the money. I got the money. I'm richest owner in baseball. He's not going to do that. He's going to be smart with the money. But if he wants a guy, if he sees a pitcher and he's like, all right, I want this dude, I want this guy on my team, that guy's a Met. I got no issue. I got no doubt in my mind that guy will be a Met if Steve Cohen wants him. And it's a new age of baseball. We've never had this kind of feeling where we feel like if our owner wants a guy, he's getting it. We used to have guys pay for food in the vending machine in the clubhouse with the Wilpons, bro. We went from a Toyota to a Ferrari, man.
Yeah. And keeping up with Steve Cohen, he had his press conference. Of course, that was also earlier on in the week as well. And a lot of stuff came out of that when it came to attendance, ticket prices, the packages that are going on. Steve Cohen was not happy about the attendance last season, more so down the stretch. When the Mets were kind of fighting for that postseason berth, that kind of final week. I went to the second to last game at Citi Field with the Mets beating the Philadelphia Phillies, and that park was more packed than when I was at Game 2 of the 2022 NLDS. Oh no, Wild Card Series against the Padres. And that was DeGrom's final game, and that place was not sold out there. So, it wasn't great until that last weekend against the Phillies. Now, I'm not blaming the fans here. The Mets started off 0-5. They had a brutal May coming off an awfully disappointing 2023 season. Did the offseason, look, it wasn't as inspiring as it was this year, right? Like, bringing in Minaya and Severino, you were hoping that they do well. A lot of the, Zach Shorts and Hausers and Tyrone Taylors of the world, you were just hoping that this team would turn it around. And not everyone can, afford the tickets, the food, the parking is super expensive. I think they just slashed parking prices in half for season ticket holders, which I think was like $40, and now it's somewhere around $25.
25,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have great giveaways and theme nights. These are some of the pros here. Mets spent this offseason, which is huge, bringing in Soto. I think that's going to help. You saw the sold-out crowd out in Port St. Lucie there. The encouraging ticket sales have been there. I feel like they could use more tiers when it comes to ticket members. Now, I don't know about you. I started getting ticket packages right around 2006, and they had like these 6 and 7 game. They had like theme packages like the Subway Series or opening day. I really think that they lack in having something like that, because they have obviously the full season, half season, then 20 games. Sometimes it's just hard to get out to all 20 games and pay for a full season's worth of parking and stuff like that. What do you think that the Mets need to do to get more butts in this, in the Citi Field seats this year? Obviously they have to win, right? But even last year, there was a little hesitancy. Like, is this real? Are they going to be that consistent winners? So what do you think, they have to do to get this team and to get these fans in the stands?
Yeah, I think they're doing a really good job with it, to be honest. And you can see a lot of motion. You see a lot of things that we have never had before, a lot of theme nights, a lot of different promotions. And you could tell that there was also something yesterday, the 2 for 22. You saw that?
Yes, I did.
The 2 for 22. Yep. They're doing a lot of things, which is, for those of you who don't know, I don't know if it was a one-day thing, but I definitely bought some tickets yesterday on that. You could buy tickets for listed games for $22 for 2 tickets, which is an amazing deal. They're doing a lot of different things, I feel like, to get people into the seats. And, for those games during the week where it's a Tuesday versus the Marlins, like, that's the type of game that a lot of people are not going to show. The game that the Mets are not worried about are like the primetime games. You always get people in the seats for those games. Mets, Yankees, opening day, obviously July 19th, which I just bought tickets for the other day, which is David Wright retirement day. Those games, the Mets don't got to worry about. You're going to sell them out. It's a random Tuesday against either the Marlins, the Rockies, somebody where nobody really cares about. And that's the game that the Mets sometimes struggle of getting packed crowds. But I'll tell you this, yes, tickets are expensive. Tickets are pricey, but the Yankees, they sell out almost every game. The Yankees, the Dodgers, they sell out almost every game. I'm pretty sure those people work too, and I don't know what they're doing differently that we're not doing, but I also believe that the fans follow success. The Mets were not that good in 2023. So that relayed over to 2024. 2024, you saw what happened. In my opinion, 2024 was the greatest Mets season in my lifetime. And I'm going to say that wholeheartedly. And we didn't even go to the World Series. We went to a World Series in 2000. We went to a World Series in 2015. And 2006, before last year, was my favorite season of all time.
Yeah.
Last year, for some reason, with everything that went on, from the way we started to the way we progressed and to the way we finished, and, we're how many at that point? 5 games away from winning the World Series? No, 6. 6 games away from winning the World Series. It was an incredible season, and I really do believe that with or without the theme nights and stuff this year, and with Steve Cohen saying what he said, I do believe that we are going to see more people in the seats this year, even on those random Tuesday games.
Yeah, when you talk about the Dodgers and the Yankees, their success has been for decades now.
Yeah.
And that's why I bring up this Rosie K comment. The truth is that the Mets have to start winning, and they have to want, the fans to come back, and they're on their way to be doing that. So if the Mets have another season, and obviously, as Daniel Camps put, Soto will bring in more people. Obviously, that's kind of a given here that Soto will bring in a lot of fans into the stands here. But if this team continues to win and puts together their second straight winning season in a row, I think that goes a long way into next year and so on and so on. And we saw it, right? In 2006, 2007, 2008, the stadium was packed mostly every game, even with, them falling apart those last games of the season in 07 and 08. But it just, the team has to find consistency in winning to keep bringing these fans to the ballpark. They want to see it. They don't want to feel like it's a one-off. They don't want last season to have been a one-off, kind of in which was, 2022 almost, right? Like 2022 was a great season and fell apart at the end and kind of felt like a one-off when they were awful in 2023. So the fans will come out, they will show, and look, it's something that's going to take time. The fans really believe in Steve Cohen, I feel like, and that he kind of quieted them down with the whole Pete Alonso situation, and it all worked out in the end. So I feel like they will come out this year and really be a part of it. Another thing that he mentioned was spending on the team next season and beyond. And Steve Cohen said that the Mets have to be really careful about potentially adding a long-term contract next winter because of the squeeze it would put on roster flexibility. We have to make the playoffs, and that's the minimum. That came from Mike Puma of the New York Post on X. And when talking about Vladdy Guerrero Jr. Turning down an extension with the Blue Jays, he said he'll let his baseball people make that decision here. Do you think the Mets will go after Vladdy? Will they pay up another $400 million contract? You said earlier, about Cohen and spending money. But, when it comes to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you already got contracts locked down when it comes to Lindor and Nimmo, and now this big contract to Soto. Is it still the I don't care mode for Cohen when it comes to a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
If Pete opts out, the Mets are going after Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and I totally believe that. I'll tell you that right now. If Pete Alonso opts out, the Mets are going after Vladimir. Now, do I think that – because I also think the Yankees are going to go after him because Paul Goldschmidt's on a 1-year deal. Do I think they're going to go to a massive bidding war like they did with Soto? There's going to be a number with Vladimir where the Mets don't want to go with because he's not Juan Soto, in my opinion. But I definitely think we're going to be going after him. But there will be, in my opinion, a number. There will be a number where the Mets are like, all right, we're not going to 700 with Vladimir Guerrero. It's not happening because the Yankees might say, F it. I don't want the Mets topping us again. Like, I don't want the Mets topping us 2 years in a row. That cannot happen. So the Yankees might just keep going up and up. And yeah, I think with Vladimir, there might be a number that just going to be like, all right, we're not going to go here with Vlad, but I definitely think we're going to go after him if Pete Alonso does not resign.
I do think that Cohen will push to see how far the Yankees will go. When it comes to Vlad, because we've seen the talk with Hal Steinbrenner of, not going over a certain amount of payroll. This is a different Yankees organization. It's not the George Steinbrenner run organization now. It's Hal's team, and Hal runs things a little bit different. So it would be interesting to see if Cohen pushes the envelope and see how far, and then, maybe like backs out at a certain to see if he'll budget and pay for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But I agree. I think that if Pete Alonso opts out, that they will and then go after Vladimir Guerrero Jr. here. So they'll whether they bring him in or not, they'll have a fallback option if they wanted to, and decided to bring back Pete. But Pete has to have a big year this year for himself if he wants to get a lot more money. And I think that this upcoming offseason with Vlad and Pete better situates Pete, because now he becomes the cheaper option to pay for, and he could still get the money. Whereas this offseason, he was one of the top guys. There were a lot of guys under him who teams rather had gone for because they were a little bit cheaper. So, it kind of works out a little bit more for Pete in the offseason. As we wrap up this show, some of the latest news and happenings. Matt Allen returning to the mound, last pitch 6 years ago, to think about it, right? How crazy. 2 Tommy John surgeries. Get this, Joe. He's only 23 years old, man.
I know. It's unfortunate. When we drafted this kid, there was a high aspirations for him, and it's very, very difficult to come back from 2 Tommy John surgeries. I understand he's very young, so that's in his advantage, but it's very hard. The only person in the history of baseball who came back successfully and pitched very well after 2 Tommy John surgeries was Nathan Eovaldi with the Texas Rangers in the playoffs, and obviously they won the World Series. There has not been many, and that's why Shohei Ohtani this year, a lot of people are like, oh my God, he's come back pitching. If I was a Dodgers fan, I wouldn't be too hyped about him pitching, because you don't know if that's going to last very long, because there has not been too many who have successfully have done that, come back from 2 Tommy John surgeries. So I feel for that kid, Matt. Again, like I said, a lot of high aspirations for him. And the fact that he's 23 years old, hasn't pitched in 6 years, and had 2 Tommy John surgeries, it's tough luck, man. And that's baseball, man. Injuries suck.
Yeah, he was selected 89th in the 2019 draft, was paid a $2.5 million bonus, nearly 4 times his slot value. Whether as a starter or reliever, it would be a great story to see Matt Allen at some point make it to the major leagues. I think a lot of the issue that happened with him too was COVID took place, and that kind of knocked out some of the minor leagues and how they were playing at the time. But man, to have 2 Tommy John surgeries only at the age of 23, I don't know if that makes his arm stronger because he's so much younger or what. But it would be nice to see him get his opportunity after the nearly 6-year struggle to get to where he's going. G Money Stacks mentioned this. Speaking of MLB Network, I saw that SNY will join the MLB app. From what I read, is that the SNY app will be no more. How do y'all feel about it? The channel SNY will still be there. I'm great about it because I don't have cable, so I needed to figure out a way. I just do the app, so now I needed to figure out a way to how to watch the Mets, whether it was just listening to it on the radio for now and going to some games, or if they figured out a way to do a streaming service, which now they do, and they'll be a part of the MLB app, as G Money Stacks mentioned. It's going to be $24.99 a month, $124.99 for the season, and then $149.99 for the entire year. The subscription offered to Mets fans is only in the tri-state area. And then this comes from I think one of the articles that I read, that fans within SNY's regional coverage territory, which is New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, and northeastern Pennsylvania, who are authenticated subscribers through their respective paid TV providers, will also be able to access the SNY stream at no extra charge through the MLB app starting in March. And then the SNY app, as G Money Stacks says, will be no longer. So they are going to be a part of the MLB app. I'm happy about that. What are your thoughts on this? Do you just have cable, or where are you with it when it comes to the way they're doing this?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't know much about it. I know I saw the article as well. I understand that this can affect some people. It's not going to affect me because, just like you, I don't have cable. So it's not going to affect me. But I definitely feel like there may be some fans who are not happy about this. But like I said, I don't really know much about it. I got to read a little bit more into it. But yeah.
Also, MLB and ESPN are breaking up here. Their mutual agreement is to end after the 2025 season, which was originally for going through 2028. ESPN had the exclusive rights to 30 regular season games and the entire MLB wildcard series, in addition to the Home Run Derby and as well as opening night. Rob Manfred was not happy with what he considered the minimal coverage that the game was getting. When I was younger, I loved ESPN baseball, whether it was Baseball Tonight, which hasn't aired daily since 2017, only before either a major event now and Sunday Night Baseball. And to me, Sunday Night Baseball hasn't been the same since John Miller and Joe Morgan stopped doing the broadcast. So, they're also losing the radio, which could go to Westwood One or Sirius XM. And, who should get these TV rights, whether it's, we could talk about all these apps, right? You got Amazon Prime, you got NBC and Peacock, CBS and Paramount. So there's a whole bunch of opportunities here for baseball. And I know we kind of hearing you and the podcast, I feel like we've kind of grown up in the same era of Mets baseball, and Sunday Night Baseball was huge, like during the Subway Series time, obviously, Yankees, Red Sox, but there were some big matchups that happened, especially involving the Mets Braves. You could talk about it, but not having, John Miller and Joe Morgan, it just felt different.
Yeah, growing up, like you said, Sunday Night Baseball was everything. It kind of felt like a WWE event in my household sometimes. Like, get ready for Sunday Night Baseball, the intro. You can't forget about the intro on Sunday Night Baseball. Had that whole intro. And I think I saw something the other day. It was like, we'll never see this again. It was like the intro of, like, back in the day. I think it was Yankees, Red Sox. It was one of the games. And yeah, the Sunday Night Baseball. And yeah, I'm going to miss those times. And I was a little bit shocked about this. I didn't know if they were going to go this route, but I can understand that maybe some viewership is down. They're trying to figure out different ways to get views. And because that's again, baseball, man, it's a business, and a lot of it has to do with the viewership of how many views that they're getting, and they're trying to up the game. They're doing all these different things to up the game, and this may be just a different way of thinking that it could help.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. They have their own app, right? Like ESPN Plus is out there. I have it for hockey as well as all the Grand Slams for tennis. It's surprising that not more baseball is put on that ESPN. Maybe they rework a deal. Maybe they figure something out. But for next year, ESPN and baseball will no longer be partnered. One more question from the chat here. Johnny Boy is saying, I believe the Mets will lead the entire league on runs scored. That don't believe the pitching woes will matter. Any thoughts on that?
I agree to an extent. I think we're going to have a lot of runs scored. As much as I'm a Met fan and I want to believe certain things, it would be wrong of me to say I think we're going to have a better offense than the Dodgers. It would be wrong of me to say that, and I can't do that as, having my own podcast now and, talking to different people. I also have to be real with myself. The Dodgers offense is scary, bro, and they're just a very, very, very extreme powerhouse. And until we do it, I can't say that we're going to have a better offense than the Dodgers, especially, with Ohtani, with Freeman, with Betts. And I understand Soto is going to help us immensely. And I also like to say that I don't like to have as high as expectations as I would like, so I don't get too disappointed, because I've had too many disappointments in my life. But I do think we're going to be one of the best offenses in baseball. I just can't say we're going to be above the Dodgers yet. But I do think if I had to say what I really believe, I believe we're going to be the second best offense in the league, in the entire MLB. That's what I believe.
Yeah, just in the National League alone, the American League is just, I feel like, just not as enticing, and that's what makes it so much easier for teams like the Yankees to get to the postseason and to the World Series. You look at the National League, Dodgers, Mets, Braves are going to be healthy. You talk about the Phillies as well in their lineup. You could look at even as well Milwaukee and Arizona and San Diego. These teams are really going to be leading the National League when it comes to offense here, and I hope that the Mets are one of the top teams at the end of the day. It means that they've really had a good season offensively, and it has put them in a good position to be in the postseason. Joe, this has been great talking with you for over the last hour. I really had a great time here. Make sure you let everyone know where they can catch the Queens Bros podcast and all your social media. Yeah, guys. So if you could just, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, every single Sunday. So tonight at 6:00, every Sunday, I post a new episode. A new episode drops on my YouTube, which is, you just go to Queens Bros Podcast on YouTube. You can find me there. Queens Bros Podcast on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. And then Queens Bros 12 for TikTok. You could follow me on all those. And like I said, a new episode drops every single Sunday at 6:00. And if you guys could just follow me on all those accounts, and also subscribe on my YouTube, I really appreciate you all, man. Joe, it's been a lot of fun here. We'll definitely do this again soon. You can follow me on the Subway to Shea podcast on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. Follow me on X at Rivera86. Like I said, subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you'd like to listen. But if you want to be a part of the chat, like a lot of people were today, we had over 148 people in the room. We had a great chat going on. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube. Like the video. Make sure it gets out there for a lot of Met fans to listen to. Just a quick update, because we are going to be moving back to Sunday nights for the season. Obviously, we don't want to do something Sunday morning and then something happens during the game on Sunday and we totally miss it. So we'll be moving back to Sunday nights soon. I don't know if it's going to be next week, but I will announce that on X and all social media platforms when that happens. But thanks so much for tuning into the Subway to Shea podcast. This has been a lot of fun for Joe, for myself. Always remember, let's go Mets.